Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Good evening, all, and welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting and the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series for Round 9 of this 2026 championship. We joined the racers at Sandown International Raceway all the way down in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. Known for being a bit of a power circuit with its long drag strip front and long back straight. 1,000 yards respectively. I'm Tom O'Gorman, joined shortly by Ron Maunz with Josh Wilkie in the production booth. And we have a beautiful night for racing here tonight. Josh Wilkie going to be commentating with me until Ron joins us. Good evening, Josh.
Yeah, how's it going, Tom? This, we're talking just quickly there in the rundown. I'm not really sure that I've been here before. I'm having a vague memory of pulling this lap, not remembering that sort of horse racing looking fence on the infield though at all. So this is going to be a bit of a discovery for me tonight as well as I believe some of the drivers out there. I've heard some pretty mixed feelings about our trip here to Sandown. So not sure how much you know about it here, but I think it's going to be a pretty interesting one tonight for everybody.
Yeah, that's been the storyline across the drivers, especially talking to them in the interviews last week at the end of round 8 back last week. That most of the drivers had not seen this racetrack. They had started to maybe consider what it looked like on a track map, but hadn't even done some laps. So we joined the drivers right now in qualifying after 1 hour's worth of practice. Most of these drivers maybe having taken a look at it just before this event taking off tonight, but a lot of the drivers here at the Sim Racers Group also racing on location at the physical location out in San Jose, California, where they don't get the opportunity to practice anything at home. They just have to show up to the location and get their practicing in. Right now, the benchmark time set by Nathan Perkins as the drivers kind of getting the cars up to speed. We typically see these cars take a little bit of time to get up to speed, maybe 2 or 3 more laps, and sometimes the drivers even taking a trip through the pit lane and bolting up a fresh set of tires to get the second half of qualifying as well. It's a good look at the first sector here. Quick chicane, and then this critical left-hand corner at turn 4 to get onto the back straightaway. This little kink right counts as turn 5, and then the really, really interesting drafting sections. We haven't seen a big drafting racetrack in a couple rounds here in the Sim Racers Group.
Yeah, absolutely. This place looks very, very tight, narrow, and pretty whippy out there as well, almost like a go-kart track. So I'm definitely, I would remember this if I was here. I haven't been here before. I do remember when they added it to the service now, though, thinking back, and it definitely does split the community a little bit. This looks to me like one of those places I would really, really enjoy driving around, but maybe a very difficult place as we're seeing here to actually make passes and get a clean race at. You have to have a lot of respect for the track and a lot of respect for your drivers and competitors around you to be able to make a proper pass here and to be able to finish a clean race, I would imagine. So they're going to definitely have to have their heads on a swivel today here and be really respectful of each other's kind of space, as we're seeing lots of curbs being used there and upsetting the cars.
That's the other defining feature of this racetrack for sure, other than the long straightaways, especially for these slower Formula 4 cars, but also, like you mentioned, those tight chicanes with big curbs. And it's a risk-reward conversation constantly for these drivers. Do you hop the curbs? Do you try to straighten the track out a little bit and risk a bad bounce? Or do you just keep it on the flat part of the racetrack, down into the final sector here, as we watch the number 28 of Jason Trantham, sitting 6th currently in qualifying. You see on the bottom bottom edge of your viewing screen there, all of the sector times coming in. Lots of yellow right now, which just means the driver's completing sectors, but no personal bests or even session bests, as Nathan Perkins continues to lead qualifying by just 0.03 of a second over Jacob Guyton, both at the 109.6 range, then 0.2 of a second back, or not even to David Borden, who's been on an absolute tear, has won 4 of the last races and has been on the podium all but 1 of those since he joined us here at round 2. To look at Andres Ruiz coming through turn number 9. And there's the look at Borden in the number 94. Has been a bit unstoppable here lately.
Yeah, absolutely. What a push he's made here. I've had the luxury here of being in the booth, either on commentary or mostly on production here for a couple seasons, as we see him having a little bit of a moment there in the final corner. He's made a pretty good rise here in the last season or so. Really got some confidence, really able to kind of turn those good quality results into good finishes, and hoping, I would imagine, to get another good one today. Not going to be an easy one around here. Also noticing there is a bit of gravel all over the track here in a couple spots. We're seeing more track limits being used there. You definitely were not kidding about these curbs being a bit of an issue around here, and definitely part of the landscape here for sure, that you're going to have to use a little bit to find some time, as we're seeing, I believe that was the number 41 there. I'm not exactly sure who that is. Let's look on our board here and that's Ken Glasser having a bit of an issue there on the curb, finding that inside wall, unfortunately. But yeah, I think today for the 94, as well as everybody else, it's going to be a bit of a race of good decision making and kind of just trying to keep calm, breathe, and keep that car on the track.
When you get a racetrack like this with the long straightaways and then tight sequences of corners at the end, it's always a tough balance of restraint and aggression for the drivers, because you can create side-by-side opportunities down these long straightaways, But then you get to the other end of that straightaway and you have a tight chicane defined by really big curbs. And these race cars not particularly friendly over the curbs. So as you're side-by-side racing, you really have to be willing to be aggressive at the right moments, but also know when it's time to back out and not push things a little too far, as it's going to be so easy to do, especially through this sequence of corners that's turn 6, 7, 8, and 9. Everything just tightens up so much at the end of this lap, and then the really critical final chicane, where you want to wrap the backside of this apex at turn 11, be all the way to driver's right for turn 12, and flat out turn 13 up onto the front straightaway. Still 10 minutes left or more in qualifying. No changes in position significantly at the top of the board. Jose Navas Molina with an improvement there to the 1 minute point 9, up from 5th to 4th. That time across the start-finish line. And still lots of yellow down at the bottom in the sector times across all 3 sectors so far. Biggs throw down into turn 1, and that's actually going to be a ride over the curb and a spin for Navas Molina. Hopefully not a preview of what's to come, but that just shows you how high consequence turn 1, and then again that turn sequence 6, 7, 8, 9 can be at the other end, at the end of both straightaways.
Yeah, absolutely. Just finding the limits there, and this is where you want to find those limits. I would imagine Jose Molina there, just finding the limits here in qualifying, exactly how far you can push it. It is a bit of a question between brains and fingertips versus bravado and biceps around somewhere like this, where you're really gonna have to kind of dance around on those pedals and try to use your brain up there and really think about what you're going to do in those moves you're going to make. Have a bit of restraint, I think, like you said, is a really good word maybe for around here, where you just have to kind of just make sure you're keeping that track within those track limits and not getting a little bit too far out, as we saw Jose Molina do here. And I think we're probably going to see a little bit of that today for sure. And again, I'm just really trying to figure out here, while we're watching, where would I make a pass around here? I haven't quite figured it out yet. It looks pretty difficult. Maybe down this big straight here, you're going to get a chance there to get a good straight and a good draft and be able to get maybe up the inside into this first corner. But man, the rest of the track's going to be pretty line of stern, I think.
Howdy, boys.
Hey, there he is.
First off, hello guys. I hope you're doing well tonight, Josh and Tom. I just got off another broadcast literally 5 seconds ago. I apologize for being this delayed. Have you all been having fun so far here at Sandown? This is a funky racetrack, ain't it?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, I'll let you guys take it over here. Definitely my final thoughts there is, I think it's going to be a little difficult out there. Like I said, lots of confidence and decision making today, and I'll leave the rest of it to you guys. Have fun.
Yeah, thank you very much there, Josh. Thank you all of you tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting here tonight. And Tom, usually we would have our little pre-race blibber blabber talking about this racetrack, but it was you and Josh having it. God, shout out to Josh for picking up in the slack for me here in the commentary booth, pulling double duty there. Love to see it. You love to see it indeed. But only 3 minutes left to go here in qualifying, Tom, and pretty tight-knit field on this track that people didn't really know, frankly, at all heading off into this race.
It is a seriously tight field, actually. We haven't had a lot of improvement recently in the leaderboard as drivers just still kind of out there turning laps, but you're right, it's less than 3/100ths of a second, for pole. We have 4 cars on the same 3/10 for the top 4, and then it looks like basically the entire field is on the same second. Takes us all the way down to 12th before we get a driver that's outside of the pole sitting time by a second. Pranay Ketanani and Ken Glasser, but both still with time to improve here with 2 laps to go in qualifying.
Yeah, just catching up on the other YouTube chat there as well, seeing everybody active as usual. The likes of Stephen Case, Alex Velasco, some other people in the YouTube chat there as well. Macy MM. I saw the first person in the YouTube chat. I looked at that, and maybe it's just down to the fact that I've been on the air pretty much constantly for the past 3 hours. But I was looking at that, and I just saw gibberish. It's not gibberish, I am sure. It just, according to my brain, it was. So we'll swiftly and abruptly move on, get into the final minute and a half here of this qualifying session. David Borden looking to be on a pretty good lap time right now, was purple in the first sector, kind of fell flat in the middle sector. David Hirsch looking to improve there, as he was actually able to set a personal best in sector 1, as we now run on board with David Borden coming towards a stripe. He's been the maestro so far here this season. Will he be able to jump up? He will not even an improvement of his time. May have been good in sector 1, but those other 2 were lagging behind.
David Hirsch and Greg Meyer, though, still with the opportunity to improve. Interestingly, though, both drivers also off in sectors 2 and 3. Here's Greg Meyer in the Taco Bell livery number 8 down through turn 9, critical acceleration zone. This is a pretty long straightaway relative to the length of this racetrack. Then we get into that final chicane, 11, 12, and 13. Meyer currently sitting in the 8th position, needs to improve on a 110.2 up onto the front straightaway. Can he improve? No, 6/10 down. Looks like the driver's struggling to improve in the later sectors of this racetrack. If that's down to the acceleration zones off the tight corners, or if that's maybe just down to risk reward of the curbs and just getting everything perfectly right.
Yeah, this is such an odd racetrack. I feel like it is almost like karting-esque when you look at the cars running around here. I'll be fully honest, folks, and say that this is it's a rare occasion where I get to say this. It's the first time I've ever done a broadcast here at Sandown. I think we talked about this right towards the end of last week's show. Never done a race here. I think the closest I ever got to was I just barely missed out on covering it on the Radical SR10s back when I was still doing the official series broadcast over on another network with Mr. Wilkie in the other production truck back then as well. It's a fun time that race was. I got to see it. Was not on the air for it. Sandown, though, really interesting racetrack. If I had $1 for every single racetrack in Australia that had some sort of horse racing track around it, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that happened twice. We look ahead at the upcoming schedule here on SMB. Of course, have the Sim Racers Group Formula 3 Series coming up tomorrow. That'll be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course. We saw a good race at the Indy Road Course just this past weekend with the Spec Racer 4 Weekend Warriors that you'll also be able to catch here on SMB. Not a great race for Mr. Wilkie. I apologize there, Josh. I think I levied a bad commentator jinx towards you, as I usually do. I am on thin ice here on this channel. SRG F4 is also going to be at Adelaide. Actually, I just realized after the back of that comment I made about Australian racetracks with horse racing tracks around them, that's 2 in a row, because I believe the pit complex at Adelaide is right by an old horse racing track, if I remember correctly.
Seems to be the pattern for sure. Down in down under. I think the old Pukekohe circuit. I don't know if that was ever in iRacing. I don't think. But those will know it. That's New Zealand with a horse track around up the inside of that one as well. But I think, Ron, as we move forward to the race and the gridding process, this is I was a bit surprised to not see much work together in qualifying between any of these drivers for drafts. But I think that's going to define this race. And then, like we talked about a little bit as you joined, the restraint that it's going to take to get through the narrow sections of this racetrack on either end with these long straightaways down the middle.
Yeah, so let's get rocking and rolling here by taking a look at your starting grid. Nathan Perkins will start from the pole. Jacob Guyn going to join him on the front row. David Borden is going to start this race in 3rd next to Jose Navas in 4th. Christopher Yee will start this race in P5. Next to him will be David Hirsch. Jason Trantham will be in 7th next to Greg Meyer. Damian Dietrich will be in 9th with Sarah Blaze completing your top 10. Andres Ruiz will be in 11th. Next to him will be Pranay Kataneni in the number 39 machine, rounding out your top 12 here in tonight's race. And then rounding out your field will be Ken Glasser starting from lucky spot P13. Stevie Ray back again for some more F4 fun. He'll start this race in 14th with Bob Eggert rounding out your 15-car starting grid here in this race. Heard a call from Mr. Wilkie in the production truck. Was that in reference to points? Did I hear that correctly? Or we'll take a look at our points here real quick. We'll get them WD-40. Too much WD-40, actually. I had to stop it up there. David Borden still leading comfortably over Jacob Guy and James McDonald, one of our colleagues here on SMD at your top 3. But let's switch our attention here, get rocking and rolling by taking a look at the field as the lights begin to illuminate and the drivers get set to roar here for just the latest round of the season. We're getting into crunch time here in this championship. These drivers don't have a lot of time left to go, don't have a lot of time left to roll, but we're gonna have a lot of fun on here on Slow Motion Broadcasting for just the latest round, the latest and greatest racing here from Sim Racers Group. And it's going to be David Borden trying to look for another win here. It's been a dominant streak for him as of recent in this championship. Was able to get his 4th straight win last time out at Oran Park, and in this little Australian section of the schedule, I think he is going to look to be a challenger as usual. Jason Trantham not lining up on the grid as the green flag flies. The drivers are on their way, and we're racing here in Sandown. That little down rail run into turn number 1. Fantastic start there, doing everything that he needs to do, punching out there. Fantastic start from Perkins.
On his 2nd pole position in a row, by the way, but David Borden makes quick work of Jacob Guyton and goes through the 2nd position. Now we're side by side for 6th position. Oh, and a bit of a tag on the back of Greg Meyer. Those quick hands save the race car by Christopher Yee getting up underneath the rear wing, and now we're 3 wide down the back straightaway. Look at the move from Dietrich around the outside of both of them, picks up 6th.
Knowing these drivers on this newer racetrack to many, already tempting with fire as they head their way down the back straightaway off into the complex. This is going to be a heavy braking zone. Drivers going to have to thread the needle through here, get themselves sorted out. Quick speeds, quick stuff. Not a lot of runoff area that through their add-on contact made as they head their way off through the turn as well. Drivers running off the track over the curbs, hop, skipping a jump through the gravel as well, but a surprisingly smooth start though as the field heads their way through the final sector onto that start finish straightaway right about now. But Nathan Perkins leads.
Perkins, Borden, Guyton, Navas, and Hirsch. That's the top 5 breakaway, and then the rest of the field just could not get single file as Saurav Vase was the aggressor down into turn 10 and 11. After the 39 of Pranay Ketaneni, he's been so quick, picked up 3 positions in that final sector, but then throws it off the racetrack way too wide at turn 1, and progress lost all the way back from 6th to 8th. Now actually from 8th to 10th for the orange number 39. Meyer is holding strong, but losing touch with Christopher Yee. Damien Dietrich is able to drive away as well. These guys all battling for 6th on back. And here's a look at the attack from Ketaneni on Meyer. Meyer sees it coming, backs her up, and gets the over-under accomplished. Rob Vase goes with, and all of a sudden, Ketaneni looks like the big winner. He's the big loser in that corner by the end.
Yeah, no, that's how quickly things can go right around this place. Talking about this track, it is definitely an odd one, less than 2 miles in length, and in that length it packs in 13 turns. Hey, 13, lucky number 13, the amount of turns of this layout. Maybe that's the reason why drivers find so many pitfalls around this place. But right now, one man who's loving it is Nathan Perkins. Similar shades to what we saw last time out at Oran Park here, Tom, with your top 2. Trying to pull away. Oh, it was a bit of a mistake there, heading off through turn number 1. Nathan Perkins runs wide on the exit. Is able to hold on to it still as he heads his way off through the complex of 2-3 into 4 right now. But any more mistakes like that, and Perkins could very well find himself in trouble.
No kidding. Does the right thing and just softens the hands up, lets the car ride out over those curbs rather than trying to fight it. As in the background, the 41 machine of Ken Glasser goes around, having picked up 4 positions since the start. We lose all of that progress. Somewhere along the way, Saurav Vase also ends up at the back of the line, with Jason Trantham having started from the pit lane. But here's the battle for the top 3. These guys have cleared the rest of the field in a big way. Nathan Perkins has been so impressive the last 3 weeks, having 2 second-place finishes, now 2 pole positions in a row, and leads this race. Interestingly, though, David Borden was not hunting for the draft down the back front straightaway, last time by. Now we're up into the front straightaway this time, coming up on lap number 5. This time he gets right into the tire tracks.
Yeah, so good run there from Jacob Guyton, just looking to hold on to that spot. One thing that we can say about Jacob Guyton and the campaign that he has had up to this point in this season is he's shown some good speed, but he hasn't been able to get the other results to kind of show for it. I think, personally, I think back to Motegi a couple of rounds ago where he was in a good spot to potentially grab the victory in that race, and then just a wild set of events throughout that event eventually gave it to Jose Navas, his one and only win so far here in this campaign. However, he's still got to look to be quick. Right now, the tail gunner of your top three is Nathan Perkins. Looks to try and drive away. We jump to this battle. Christopher Yee battling right now with Damian Dietrich and also battling with the handling of his car as he smacks over the curbs here. One other little nook and cranny for these drivers to try and explore here in this race is the fact they have to develop a relationship with those curbs. You see them just completely clobbering them, which in an open wheel car is horrifying.
Very easy to end up with that curb right down the middle of the car, and then all of a sudden you're Tony Hawk grinding down the curb rather than gripped up and making any progress. Here comes Christopher Yee taking a little bit of a peek on Damian Dietrich, thinks better of it into the braking zone for turn one. Will live to fight another day. Greg Meyer joins the battle now for sure, duking it out for 6th, 7th, and 8th. They are still in touch with David Hirsch. A little bit of a mistake for Dietrich, runs a bit wide, but keeps the momentum up actually very nicely on the back straightaway.
Yeah, keeping that momentum rocking and rolling outside of that turn 5 kink in the middle of it. This is a fantastic run to try and get a good move done. So we jump back to the front of the field. Nathan Perkins still pulling that gap over himself and David Borden, and now to 1.3 seconds. Borden's win streak may very well end here in this race. And now we'll pull up the championship points just again here potentially. Well, I'll take a look at these very briefly just so everybody can savor it. Had a very brief look at it before we grab that green flag. You can see Borden and Guyton separated by the tune of about 58 points. If there's anybody that can afford to take it easy heading off into the final few weeks of the season, it definitely is your current P2 runner and current championship points leader of David Borden. However, Nathan Perkins in 8th. I don't want to sound like a car alarm there. Nathan Perkins in 8th. He's going to look to try and make some inroads towards the end of the season. He's only 2 points behind Jose Navas heading into this race. So this would be a fantastic run for that driver, the 5 machine, if he can see this one out to the end.
It really would. And he was so consistent towards the beginning of the season in the top 10, but had a hard time breaking through to the top 5. Jacob Guyton was Mr. 6th place. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 6th place finishes out of 8 races. And that consistency has been able to hold down the 2nd position in the championship. But the pace that Nathan Perkins has found late in this championship has been so impressive. And in talking to him at the end of some of these races, you can kind of hear that he feels there's a bit of a hierarchy or a bit of a seniority. We're just kind of hopefully hoping to slot in behind David Borden and follow him to a 2nd place finish. This is the first time that Perkins has had the pace to just run at the front and run away. Now Jacob Guyton, feeling racy down into turn 1, goes for a bit of a peak, just filling the sight lines in the rear view mirror. And now for 4th position, David Hirsch gets up the inside of Jose Navas, but loses the back end right on the exit of turn 1.
Yeah, that was a very goofy spin as he headed his way off through turn number 1. Earlier on in the show, Tom, you brought up a very good reference. The drivers hoping that doesn't hit the middle of the car and they pull off like a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 kind of maneuver. It's nearly happened here with that spin. As there you can see, it was actually a bit of netcode contact there with Jose Navas as well. That may have potentially played a role in that car looking very weird as he slided his way off. Slid. English is not my first language. I'm from Philly. Swear words is my first language. But he's still holding on to a spot inside the top 5, but his tires have been turned into rectangles as a result of that slide.
And his recovery is only just quick enough to be right in front of the battle for 6th position between Dietrich, Yee, and Meyer. Got to be very careful there. Navas finds himself rather lonely now in 4th position, but the battle for 2nd is hot as ever. Jacob Guyton just knocking on the back door of David Borden, who doesn't have the dominant pace we typically see out of that number 94. Still looking very clean as Guyton using way more curbing to accomplish the same pace as the car in front of him, Borden.
Yeah, still keeping very close to the field as despite the fact that your top 2 have broken up a little bit, a 1-second gap is something that most real-life racing series would kill for. Formula 1. NASCAR on the road course. Shane Van Gisbergen is way too quick on them. But David Borden right now in P2. You can tell I've been on the air for the past 3.5 hours. My brain is a fine red mist. David Borden holding on to second right now. Again, he's doing everything he needs to do to try and preserve that championship. He doesn't need to go out for all-out glory. I think at this point, he is just hoping that he doesn't get sent completely into the deep end of the pool when he inevitably gets graduated up to F3s next year here in the Sim Racing Group world.
And you can see that in the body language of the car. He's just not taking huge risks, not willing to throw this race away just because he's running in second spot. And it's a really nice spot to be in when you've been so dominant that second starts to feel like a salvage. But he's completely fine with where he is at this point. Starting to hop the curbs just a little bit more. Jacob Guyton, though, absolutely hounding him. And Nathan Perkins at the front continuing to ease away just ever so slightly, a couple tenths per lap. The gap now 1.6, closing in on 1.7 seconds with still half the race to go.
Yeah, the gap's still close between those two of Borden and Guyton. The gap's still close as well between Christopher Yee and Damian Dietrich running in 6th and 7th. Gen Alpha is going to have a field day with that one. Pranay Ketaneni in the number 39 car is also still being challenged by Jason Trantham. Trantham, who, as a reminder, actually started this race from pit lane. He did not line up on that starting grid. Been able to make up a pretty good drive, holding on to the final spot inside of the top 10 right now, and still looking to get a little bit more. As you can see, a little bit of smoke in the air as they headed their way off through that turn. That was off through turn number 9 that we saw that smoke, and I believe it may have come from the 04. No! Into the heading out of the final turn. That right there was a slide from Jason Trantham, and Pranay Ketaneni gets involved in it. Nothing that he could do there, just pretty much, you know, first man to arrive at the scene of the accident, nothing he can do in time.
Yeah, Ketaneni just loses the back end in the braking zone for this final corner. It actually starts with a tank slap from the previous corner. Trantham nowhere to go. Just tries to sneak up the inside and just barely misses. Damage is off in this league, so both drivers are going to be able to continue on. But unfortunately, Pranay Ketaneni with a small mistake is kind of shot Trantham in the foot there a bit.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate there for Trantham. As I was saying, he was holding on to a good spot inside of the top 10. Man, my commentator jinxes need to be studied. These are almost impressive. I would say fully impressive, but the number one victim of them is our producer, and I don't want my microphone to randomly get cut. As in that battling there, I was going to say one of the drivers that may have been the reason for the smoke in the air through turn number 9 was Damian Dietrich. I saw him drop down, has lost out on some time to Christopher Yee, lost out on 7th to Greg Meyer. That gap has ballooned out between those racers now at the other 12-minute mark of this 20-minute long race. So the battles that we've got on your racetrack at the moment are between your final 2 podium runners of David Borden and Jacob Guyton, as well as Jose Navas and David Hirsch, who keep ping-ponging back and forth between that north of and south of 1 second margin, as Navas actually clipped the dirt on the outside of turn number 5.
Yeah, Ron, a bit surprised that we don't see any closer battles than we do right now with how close the grid was in qualifying, and also how these long straights should give plenty of draft. But I think that just kind of tells the story of the unfamiliarity with these drivers and this racetrack. Probably just small mistakes adding up in different ways for different drivers. We've seen plenty of them on camera, but it's created these big gaps, relatively big in quotes, as they're only still within maybe 1 to 2 seconds of each other for the majority. But the best battle on the racetrack is still brewing for second position up the road from this battle for 4th, as Jose Navas is starting to feel the pressure, maybe just a little bit, from David Hirsch driving back after that mid-race mistake.
It was keeping up with the YouTube chat here as well. Alex Velasco pointing out 2 very good things. First off, he said, it's okay, Ron, we still love you. I thank you for the support, Alex. And secondly, he mentioned the 1.6 second gap that we did have between your top 2 is diminishing. It's teeter-tottering back and forth. It's around 1.3 seconds right now, but it does have the benefit of time. However, we flash our minds back to last week's race at Orange Park here, Tom. This was kind of a similar sort of deal. Perkins was pulling away in the early stages, really comfortable. Then as things went a little bit later on, I wouldn't say it fell apart, but there were mistakes starting to break out. As you can see, a big one there as he headed his way at turn number 12. A huge curb whack. Just in that little moment there, you can see that gap close up for the first time here in this race, or first time in quite some time, I should say, to below 1 second. Those curb whacks would be bad enough in a GT car. And an open wheeler, that is a shot through the spine.
It's a good point. It's also just high risk. We've seen plenty of drivers make little mistakes because they're flirting with the track limits of those curbs. And so far, Nathan Perkins has been absolutely comfortable with them. But that's the first time we've seen him slip up just a little bit. The gap from 1.6 seconds a couple laps ago, now down to 0.8. And a lot of that was in the final sector of the previous lap. It looks a little bit quicker maybe through the first couple corners, but then we get onto these straightaways, the draft doing its job down the back straightaway, closing David Borden up by maybe a tenth or two. And we get into this section where, again, Perkins is just a little bit more willing to take the risk, let's say, over across the curbs at turns 8 and 9.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit earlier on about that sort of general relationship of hate that open wheel drivers have to have with the curbs. I think the only open wheelers where, basically eating the curbs with cereal for breakfast is a good strategy to run with. It is pretty much just, like you look at cars with no downforce, aka, I think Formula Vs can run to some degree. You've got to smash the curbs, though. It can't be just like up on 2 wheels, flying the car like a kite like you can do in a sports car. If you do that in an open wheeler, you will very quickly face the opposite direction and find yourself in the nearest wall. If you ever look at shifter kart racing as a good little example, drivers don't kiss the curves, they smack them. They smack them pretty good. I have seen the underside of many a shifter car chassis that looks about as worn down as you could possibly imagine there, as side-by-side battling off into turn number 1. Andres Ruiz on the dive on Pranay Ketaneni gets that P11 spot just like that. Good overtaking zone into turn 1.
Textbook pass for Ruiz. Now back onto the back straightaway, excuse me. Ketanani will have the opportunity to come back at them. Battle for the lead, though, no closer this time by. Not a big adjustment for any of these drivers, as we're under 5 minutes, actually 3.5 minutes to go at this point in the race. Very late closing stages. This is still as close as Borden has been. The closer he gets, if he can get maybe a tenth or two closer, just a car length or two closer, the draft is going to get stronger and stronger, and that's going to give him an opportunity to come back. But again, look at the gap now as we come through sector 1. Perkins just pulls another couple tenths, 3 of them actually, onto the back straightaway, and then that time will start to tumble down. So David Borden and Jacob Guyton just at the back end of the draft, just getting a sniff of it at this point.
Yeah, that's all you need of the draft. It's just a small little whiff. Even if you catch it in a windstorm, that's what matters. It's like walking downtown and you get a whiff of a brand new restaurant that just opened, and then you want to go in, see what it's like, try out the food. It just snowballs out of control from there. Next thing you know, you either end up with the best meal of your life or about $50 that you felt like you absolutely just wasted. Jacob Guyton, though, holding on to P3, is getting the strongest whiff out of anybody. He's getting the draft off the back of David Borden. He's getting the draft off of Nathan Perkins. Now, the one thing that I will say in reference to the draft around this place is, when we look at some of the other tracks that we've had so far this season, just talking about the straightaway lengths, hey, even Oran Park last time out, I think the start-finish straightaway there was probably longer than just about, the start-finish straightaway and the back straight combined here around this place. It is disproportionately long compared to the rest of the track, but the track is still, a tick below 2 miles, so it's pretty much just only big by scale.
Ron, this is getting very interesting. Look at the gap now down to 0.4 of a second. David Borden had an absolutely monster run off of the final corner the previous lap and has been able to continue his progress just a little bit less aggressive again through the curbing at turns 7, 8, and 9. Loses 3 of those tenths that he had started to gain back in. This is exactly what Nathan Perkins needed to do. Look at that. He just monstered the final half of this lap and blew his gap all the way back out to 0.9 of a second.
Yeah, no, so Perkins hitting his marks where he needs to. It's all about preserving that gap right now. The white flag was not out there, so 2 more laps left to go here. About 4 miles for Nathan Perkins to try and seal the deal, but he is playing with fire. Every single time I see him head his way off through a turn like turn 1 or even turn number 12 where we saw him have that big moment, it nearly ends in tears on several occasions, as we're probably going to see a slam dunk overtake Sarah Vase with a slowdown, and Jason Trantham going to be there to capitalize of disqualification as well farther in the back for Pranay Ketaneni. That's going to hurt him here in this race. Obviously, he's disqualified. He's just got to yoinked out of the session. Of course, that's going to hurt his finishing results. Vase not able to withstand that pressure there from Trantham with that slowdown. That's going to drop him back as Perkins once again balloons out that gap to 9/10 of a second. It was brought up in the YouTube chat as well. Very astute viewers, I got to say, that we have here on slow motion broadcasting, especially here on these SRG shows. Many of the drivers in the chat are the ones from the F3 series who have experience racing in these F4 cars and racing alongside these drivers. They note every single time he's been able to pull it at the end of that back straightaway, braver on the brakes, able to get the moves done. At this point, they take the white flag with an 8/10 of a second gap. I think Jacob Guyn is tired of waiting. He's now applying some pressure to David Borden. Borden is going to need a monumental final lap if he wants to get the W. It's looking good for Perkins, but he can't count the chickens before they hatch.
Absolutely not, especially with those high-risk curves at the end of the lap. But we've only had 4 different race winners this season. David Borden, a 5-time race winner. Jose Navas has won once. Greg Meyer has won once. And James McDonald, who hasn't raced with us in a couple weeks, also a race winner. This would be your 5th different race winner in 9 rounds. If Nathan Perkins can hold on to it, still has about a 5.5 advantage. This is the final curb hops that he needs to get done cleanly. Splits it perfectly at turns 7 and 8. Rolls her down onto the brakes, clips the apex at turn 9 perfectly. He should be all but home free here.
Yeah, one more heavy braking zone and then another complex. The braking zones have seemed to be Nathan Perkins' dream ride here. Been a dream ride in Australia. And for the first time here in the Sim Racers Group F4 Championship here this season, Nathan Perkins is going to come across the line to win this race. He gets the job done here at Sandown. And for the first time since Winton, way back earlier on this year, where James McDonald grabbed the W, it's a different driver outside of David Borden winning this race. His 4-race win streak comes to an end here. It was a good run. He still ends up in second. Fantastic result for your championship points leader, but sometimes feels a little bit bitter to end off a string of wins. As we wait now, I think this may be it. Beautiful. There's Greg Meyer in 7th. See, somebody in the YouTube chat said that they missed out on the Taco Bell dong. I had to bring it. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, I may be a race car and race history nerd, but at the end of the day, I am an entertainer. Oh, look at that beauty right there. Tom, what are your thoughts on Taco Bell?
Great. All about it. I'm a fan.
Fan of Taco Bell, yo. See, I had never had Taco Bell until a few years ago, and then ever since then, I have been a fan of it for sure. As we see the drivers line up on this start-finish area to get the podium photos, we'll hold on this shot for a little bit, take a look at your top finishing drivers. Thank you all once again for tuning into the action here on this broadcast. It's been a fun one, and yes, I'm very happy about us hitting the Taco Bell dong. But let's get the other post-race coverage up and rolling here on SMB and avoid the barrier there for Nathan Perkins. Good job there. Let's take a look at our race results, shall we, here for round number 9 of this season. Oh, no, he hit the barrier there on the inside. I spoke too soon. Nathan Perkins gets the win. It's 0.6 of a second to himself and David Borden. Borden, we got to say here, Tom, he never gave up here in this race. He showed a lot of grit, even though he had 4 wins in a row and a massive championship lead. He never really rested. I don't think he will be resting come time for the end of the season once it ended off on a high note. Jacob Guyn ends up in a still very good overall P3. Jose Navas finishes in 4th in front of David Hirsch in 5th. Christopher Yee is in 6th. Greg Meyer in 7th. Damian Dietrich ends up in 8th with Jason Trentham and Sarah Vase completing your top 10. Andres Ruiz in 11th. Stevie Ray, who we didn't really talk about throughout that show, ends up in 12th with Bob Eggert. Ken Glasser rounding out the drivers that actually took the checkered flag. And Pranay Ketaneni ends up in 15th. First and only car out of this race after disqualification a little bit later on. You know, Tom, I'll be honest, I wasn't really sure what to expect heading off into this race. There was a brief period of time as I was covering some ARCA racing at Dover earlier on tonight where I wasn't sure if I would be covering this race, but I think Sandown treated us rather well.
Yeah, not bad at all. And by the way, Steve Ray was your hard charger. Not a lot of big charging tonight. Only 2 positions gained. Plenty of yo-yoing, though. At some point, some drivers were up as many as 4 or 5 positions. But again, I think the learning curve still on full display here for some of the drivers. Nathan Perkins, though, taking that win. And Jacob Guyton with his second best finish of the season. His best finish was second back in round 4, all the way back at Winton Motor Raceway. But another podium for his championship efforts should pull another bit of a lead out on everybody else behind, except for Nathan Perkins.
And when you mentioned yo-yos, it reminded me of the very odd fixation that I had on yo-yos back when I was in elementary school. I am shocked I never gave myself a black eye with one of those. Even today, I have the hand-eye coordination of a blind weasel. So let's, before I start talking about me giving myself some bad facial trauma, let's take a look at our winner. Let's examine his race a little bit closer, and it's making it sound like I'm about to drag him in for an interrogation. Let's have an interview, shall we, with our race winner, Nathan Perkins, getting the job done here tonight. Nathan Perkins now joining us here in the booth. Nathan, welcome in. Congratulations, my friend, on grabbing the win here at Sandown. How was it?
Oh, it was fantastic, but it was scary the whole time. I was extremely anxious the entire race about my 2 friends, David and Jacob, behind me within, a second or 2 the entire race, and watching those intervals go up and down the entire race, and you get just even the tiniest slip, and those guys are eating up tenths of a second down the straight. So pretty scary. I'm really sweaty. So this is, oh man.
Are your palms sweaty?
Yeah, my knees are weak. My arms
there we go. Vamonos, better sweater already from Mom Spaghetti. But Nathan, I do want to ask you about one specific moment. It was heading into turn number 12. A bit later on actually I say later, I think it was around the midway point of this race. We saw you with a pretty nasty curb whack. We noted throughout this show that unlike most races here with these F4s where, there are dents left in the curb from drivers hitting them with the 10-foot pole, it looked like those curbs had to be used by you drivers. I want to ask you about that and the relationship with the curbs throughout that race.
I think this course felt like it had really dangerous curbs. So there was probably one that I felt comfortable cutting, and that's like the chicane after the second straight. And you can cut it so much. It almost feels like a crime. But every other curb was just dangerous, and I was doing pretty much everything I could to stay away from it. So that was a slip and not really intended. I think also it's like that last corner, it's like the first half of the curb is high and the second half is low. But no, the curbs on this one are just vicious. They'll throw you into a spin that you wouldn't even think you're going to spin out, but you hit the curb, you spin out, and there's no room to get turned around, and so you can lose all your positions. Officials this week, every single official, I got like spun out and lost like all my positions in one mistake.
Actually, as you were giving the answer about the curbs, I was seeing one of the other camera angles that we had right out of turn 4. It was on the outside of turn 5, looking at the inside curb there, and it reminded me of a crash that somebody had here many years ago. And I guess it was like an Australian Formula 3 race, hit the curb there on the inside and just, turned their, it was just basically a launching pad for them. So thankfully we didn't see any amazing aerial acrobatics here. We always love aerial acrobatics, but usually once the race is done with. But Nathan, I do want to ask you about the next race here. We go from one unknown quantity of a racetrack to one that may be slightly more of a known quantity. It's been used in the Sim Racers Group world before, even though it hasn't been a part of the iRacing service for a while. Adelaide, next time at the former F1 track, the supercars staple. That'll be a very interesting race, but I want to know what your thoughts will be heading off there.
Yeah, I've done quite a few officials in different car classes on that one. I feel like this may be a horrible take, but it feels like it looks more dangerous than it really is. Like, at least the walls kind of keep you headed in the right direction for the most part, whereas Sandown, it felt like if you screw up, you'll be spun around and you'll be like, you're not even heading in the right direction anymore, and you're just done. So I don't know if that's a horrible take, but I kind of liked Adelaide. So I guess we'll see how it goes. I'm always, whenever I'm on the Australian tracks with the like 25 mile per hour pit limiter, though, I feel like I'm in a school zone. It's like I can't remember the other one, but Adelaide definitely 25 mile per hour pit zone.
The bend, I remember. I think Tom, right before we did that broadcast, I think I was on production and comms for that. Didn't I point that out, the 25 mile an hour speed limit being just absolutely stupid around there?
Yeah, it's all of the Australian circuits. I don't know what they have against taking any amount of speed in the pit lanes, but they hate it.
Yeah, I did not know that it was just like a whole Australian track thing, but I guess thankfully here in this series we don't have to worry about the stops. But Nathan, before we let you go and celebrate this race win and get a little bit of practice in for those 25 mile an hour pit lane speed limits at Adelaide, we'll let you give any thank yous or shout outs.
Yeah, I'm going to dedicate this win to my girlfriend. She's having a bit of a rough day today, and I hope this helps, and I really hope that things get better. So I love you so much. And then secondly, I'll dedicate, well, you can't dedicate something twice, but I'll give a big shout out to Stephen Case. I did a coaching session on this track Sunday night. He stayed up, I think is late for him, to give me about an hour of coaching, and we found probably a second worth of time there. So and not only the time that we found, but he showed me how to be more consistent, and I really needed the consistency, or else I would have totally lost it. So thank you, Steven. Thank you, Wanlin, my girlfriend, and thank you guys for hosting. Thanks to all the SRG guys.
Yeah, thank you as well for joining us here on the broadcast, Nathan. Congratulations on the win here tonight here in Sandown, and we hope to see you back out there on the racetrack for Adelaide.
All right, I'll be there. Thank you.
Yep, and that right. As I just dragged myself out of the booth there because I have the mental aptitude of a senile earthworm. I was just going to say in the YouTube chat, I see Percolicious and Percolator. That may get me put on a list reading those out on the air. Tom, I'll pass the mic off to you to have a chat with somebody. Who do you want to speak to?
Yeah, let's talk to our other podium finisher that's going to join us here. We got Jacob Guyton also joining us in the booth here. Jacob, you hear us?
Yes, I do.
Awesome. So another podium for you, your second on the season. Tell us a little bit about the race from your perspective. It's a lot of staring at the back of Michael Borden's car, but I'm sure there was, or David Borden, excuse me, but I'm sure there's more to it than that.
There was really not much more to it than that. Just trying to stay clean, because one little mistake on this track is certain death. Yeah, it was just trying to catch Borden's wake and stay there, try to make a move here and there, but him and Nathan were just so consistent that I personally didn't feel comfortable trying to make a move, and I had a good pace and was hitting my mark, so I just kind of rode the wave, if you will.
Yeah, that's kind of the theme that we're hearing, is that everyone feeling the tension of what could possibly happen with flirting with those curbs. Did you have any close calls that we might not have seen? We watched part of the battles for most of the race, but any close calls that you, oh, I got away with that one?
Yeah. Beginning of the race, I'm not remembering anything in the beginning of the race, although I'm sure there was something that happened. Something that sticks out to me was going into that set of corners off of the back straight. I think there was about 5 minutes left. I flirted a little too much with the grass on that first corner with my front left wheel, and my car got a little squirrely, hit that bump, and almost locked it when I landed, and that just would have absolutely obliterated Borden if I hadn't caught that a little sooner. But yeah, that's the only thing I can really remember.
That's probably a good sign, right?
Yeah.
So looking at the championship side of things, you've been Mr. 6th place for the most part, as 5 of your now 9 finishes have been in that 6th place position, but this is your second podium. Looking at 3 more rounds, Adelaide, Tsukuba, and Phillip Island. How are you feeling coming into any of those races or any of those tracks to wind the season out?
Tsukuba, I am a fan. Adelaide, I am not recalling off the top of my head. If I had the track map in front of me, I'd be able to give a better opinion. But just like Sandown, another track that I'm going to have to learn and get good pace at. I am not a fan of Phillip Island at all. I don't like that track.
Okay.
It's a tough one for me personally. So we'll see. Question mark. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good in the car. I'm feeling pretty good on being able to pick up pace, and it's about executing and keeping the nerves down and keeping my head straight when it comes to race time. You know, the top 10 are all within like a second, you know, every week. So it's just about keeping the nose clean, keeping a cool head, and just doing your best to move forward if you can.
I have to ask, I just noticed in the cockpit view, are there gloves livery that you're running? Are those hands? Do you just run hand liveries on your gloves?
My driver suit is actually just him in chonies. He's just wearing some heart boxers, actually. If you look at my pit crew. It's been a hot season, so you know our team is taking the most and getting the tans in, and yeah, it does look just like hands, and it throws me off even when I load in sometimes.
I've heard of trucker tan. I've never heard of Formula 4 tan. I guess that's what that's what we got. So before we let you go here, any thank yous or shout outs you'd like to give while we have you here?
Yeah, I want to say thank you this week to you guys, because you guys always say not to say thank you, but thank you guys at SMB anyway, for putting on the race for all of our friends and loved ones to watch. Thank you so much to Jason, Cotcher, Tyler, Alex, Steven, everybody helping run the SRG Discord and leagues and everything like that. And yeah, just thanks to everyone that might be watching, and it was a good race, calm race, but good race.
Very good. Well, congratulations on another podium. We'll look forward to seeing you next week at Adelaide. After you take a look at the track map, remind you how it looks, and looking forward to it.
All right, thanks you guys. You all have a good night.
You too. And I'll throw things back over to you, Ron. Looks like we're going to have one more conversation with Christopher Yee.
Yeah, Christopher, you're going to join us in the broadcast booth. But before we wrap things up here, Christopher, welcome into the booth. It was a pretty odd racetrack that we had to tackle here at Sandown. You drivers were definitely put to the test. How did you enjoy this place out there on your way to a 6th place finish?
Hey guys, definitely a punishing track if you mess things up, especially getting in my head for turn 1. But I think just trying to keep my head down and just keep it on track. It was a pretty awkward first lap, but when things settled, I kind of got back into my pace and was able to fight back and earn a position back for P6, so got to be happy with that.
Yeah, so a good result for you here in this event. Now, we are getting towards the end of this season here of Sim Racers Group F4 action. Only a handful of races left to go after this. He says a handful, only 3 races left to go once we're done with this one. So I want to ask you kind of preemptively before that final trio of events, how has the season treated you so far?
Getting promoted to F4 has been great. This first season's been an amazing ride. Definitely ups and downs, especially the last 2 weeks. Just been trying to recover from a really nasty flu that I caught, so even lost my voice. But actually, this is the first week that I feel back to normal, so I'm even getting ahead on my homework and actually getting some laps in on all 3 of those last races for the end of the season. But so far, it's definitely been a ride and trying to further develop that racecraft. Jacob even invited me to the family show right before these races, so I think that'll be a great opportunity to kind of just get more experience battling with the rest of the guys on the field.
Oh, firstly, happy to hear that you are feeling better from the bout with the flu. I remember back in 2023, I had a pretty nasty case of COVID while I was broadcasting, and just knocked out my voice for a couple of days. And that was my version of hell, because I was left alone with my own thoughts. That's never a good prospect for me. But Christopher, I do want to ask you specifically about the next race of this season, Adelaide. Remaining down under for the 3rd week in a row at one of the newest tracks here in the sim. What are your thoughts heading there next time out?
It's a pretty fun track, especially through buildings. I was actually farming some SR and sports car in the MX-5, so at least I have some experience with the track and kind of figure out the speeds for the different corners to take, so I can't wait to get on track with the F4 car.
MX-5s at Adelaide, that sounds like driving through a war zone, I'll be completely honest. But hey, if it worked out in farming some safety rating, that's what matters at the end of the day. But Christopher, before we let you go and get some more practice in for Adelaide, we'll let you give any thank yous or shout outs.
Always thank you to you guys, keeping it interesting and fun. But also Team Gold, the SRG team that we had for Nürburgring 24 hours. That was my first experience. Unfortunately, I was sick, but that day I was able to help spot and just kind of get exposed to the whole flow of a 24-hour race and helping out with pit strategy and fuel savings. So it was a really good time hanging out with everybody. So I had a lot of fun with that.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, Christopher, thank you for joining us in the booth, and we hope to see you back out there on the racetrack for Adelaide in 1 week's time.
Thanks, guys.
And that right there was Christopher Yee, our P6 finisher here tonight. Tom, I think Sandown was an odd choice looking at the official series calendar that this championship, of course, runs to, but I will say that it treated us rather well.
Yeah, I love that we've chosen this Asia Pacific regional tour instead of maybe something that most of these drivers would be more familiar with this season. It's really pushed drivers out of their comfort zone, forced their learning curve to be as accelerated as possible, and kind of winding the season down. We've got one more of those, maybe a bit of a question mark racetracks with Adelaide Street Circuit, a bit newer here in the simulator, but then we're going to finish out on a familiar note with Tsukuba and Phillip Island. It's been a lot of fun to watch these drivers in this kind of stepping stone series get their footing and race hard.
Yeah, and of course, if you want to see some of the drivers that were in the YouTube chat for this broadcast as well, providing us some good entertainment here on the air, you can see that broadcast of the Sim Racers Group Formula 3 Championship coming up in about 24 hours time here on the channel as well. As Tom mentioned, the next time you'll be able to see this series is in 1 week's time when the series rocks up to Adelaide, but there's far more action between then and now coming up here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. We've got you booked what feels like every single day of the week. We like to have a good time here on the channel. And this upcoming week, we have a lot of action of note. Of course, the F3s of Sim Racers Group going to be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course. Formula V is going to be rocking up to Alton Park for their latest round of the championship. The Spec Racer Fords are going to be running at Barber Motorsports Park this upcoming weekend as well. That will be on Sunday on May 17th at 3:45 p.m. Eastern time. You'll be able to see that on screen here in just a couple of moments' time. Little spritz of WD-40 there it is. Beautiful work. And as well as that, you'll also be able to see the season finale of the Grand Prix Tour here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Those Porsche Cup cars last hit the racetrack here with us at Portimao about 2 weeks ago. That was a real fun race, but now with a little bit longer, 60 minutes for that season finale, that'll be real fun for those drivers on Monday, May 18th. Of course, the F4s will be back here on Slow Motion Broadcasting Tuesday, May the 19th, along with some more action, of course, from the F3s and F4s every single Tuesday and Wednesday night. If you're in the mood for some slightly shorter action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, you can take a look at our YouTube shorts. If you're in the mood for some little community action, shall we say, coming up at the end of this month, we do have the Adam W. Estep Memorial Scholarship Mustang GT3 charity race. More information will be coming out on that here in a few weeks' time. Sim Racers Group, along with the likes of D-Nut Stuff and Frito Sport from the American Muscle Series, Stevie Ray Esports, and of course us here at Slow Motion Broadcasting are all presenting partners in the event to make it all possible. And you'll be able to catch the broadcast live here on Slow Motion Broadcasting May 30th here in 2026 at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Never miss out on any of the racing action by hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you're interested in potentially broadcasting your own league, iRacing league, or series event, you can do that by going to www.slowmotionbroadcasting.com or joining our Discord server linked in the YouTube channel. But as for this broadcast here for round number 9 of the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Championship here in Sandown, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Tom O'Gorman joining me in the commentary booth, and Joshua Wilkie working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting tonight, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.